Dear learners, welcome to week 3, module 1 of the MOOC course on Introduction to Distance and Digital Education. This module is on learner support services. Now we all know that a teaching learning methodology in the open and distance learning system is very much expected to be different from the conventional classroom system. Unlike the traditional mode of educational system or the conventional universities, the learners in the open and distance learning system, there needs to be provided with a lot of different resources like self-learning materials, library services for consultation, and other additional resources. Then there are the counseling sessions for guidance and clearing of doubts and other confusions of the learners. And of course, we have the SMS services or other mobile services for updating the learners with important or other recent or upcoming activities or events with the help of postage services or email or any other advanced electronic tools. These services are collectively known as learner support services. And most of these support services, they're very much well supported by the different information and communication technology. These ICT tools or information communication technology tools not only speeds up the delivery of these different support services, but also makes the learning process very much interactive and interesting. And innovation in the media sector, together with the use of the radio and television, have accelerated the delivery of the different support services within the shortest possible time frame. For example, in New Zealand, and of course in Australia too, radio tutorials and radio conferences are used on a wide scale, basically to deliver the different need-based learning to the learners. And it's not only that the ICT tools have kind of accelerated or sped up the process of delivering the learner support services. Even the developed countries, they use a combination of both traditional as well as technological methods of distance delivery courses and services. Cable TV, electronic blackboards, fiber optics, and telephone are used in conjunction with study materials and other counseling sessions. Videotapes and video discs are also very important forms of communication tools through which the different study materials are copied in the form of disc and can be provided to the learners. And this comes as quite handy to the learners in a way because they can view the different video clips and also go through the study materials at different points of time. They don't have to have a specific time frame, to go over the video clips. They can look over it, they can go through it even while they're at home. It's not that they have to attend the classes in order to view the different clips. Then the different audio cassettes and videotapes, they are also effective medium of communication tools. And they have a very basic advantage over the radio and television in that they enable the learner to have complete control over the learning material. The phonograph records and other flexi disc, there are also good devices which are economical and also easily accessible. Educational film strips and films are also very much useful and effective media in the teaching learning process. And all these different tools, they form a very important part of the learners support services. Then we have telephone, which is another important medium of disseminating the different support services. Telephone provides a two-way interaction or two-way communication between the learner and the teacher, as also among the learners themselves. It is very important for those learners who are dispersed or who are geographically displaced and in different parts of the country or in different areas where there is shortage of specialists or maybe tutors or maybe counselors. Telephonic conversation, in some way, it lends a human touch to the interaction process. Teletutoring and teleconferencing are two very important, widely used tools of communication in the field of open and distance learning. The institutions which have made use of these innovative tools, it allocates the learners to kind of telephone the counselors or the tutors and discuss their problems with the tutors over telephone. And the learners and the tutors, they don't need to travel for interaction or for seminars or for discussion to different places. And even the distance education institutes or the open universities, especially in the developing countries, they might not be in a position to make use of all the innovations of modern communication technology. So, but this should not stop the distance education institutes or the open universities from kind of integrating these devices into the teaching learning program. Such support services kind of have breached the communication gap, have brought the learners, the tutors, the counselor together on a one platform and engage in some kind of conversation and engage in some kind of discussion. And that discussion can be in a face-to-face mode. The discussion can take place over online platforms and so forth. So when we talk about learner support services, it should basically address these following issues. The number one issue is providing information support. Learners should be provided with all the necessary information before taking admission into the program, during the duration of the program, and even after they pass out from that respective program. The second important issue that learner support service needs to address is institutional support. The learners must be given important information related to the different academic counseling sessions that they might have to attend, who are the counselors that they need to interact, or who are the tutors for the respective education programs, what and information about the different assignments, different home assignments, then information about different practical based programs, how they can make use of different electronic media tools, how can they make use of different online resources, online study materials, information about teleconferencing, maybe radio counseling, etc. So this kind of information falls under the institutional support. And this is second important issue that the learner support services should address. The third important issue that the learner support services should address are the learning centers or the study centers, as they're commonly known as in our country. Now, the study centers are the main areas or the main centers where the learners take admission into the different programs. They need to attend tutorial classes on weekends or maybe on other weekdays as provided by the respective study centers. They can interact with the counselors at the respective study centers or learner centers or the learning centers. They can make use of the different library facilities. They can utilize the laboratory facilities especially for those belonging to the science-based programs. They can submit their respective assignments. They have to maybe attend or look for the other examination related aspects and the respective learning centers or study centers. So learning centers or study centers is a third important issue that the learner support services needs to address. So specific provision must be made more specifically for the benefit of the learners. Then the fourth important aspect that when we talk about learner support service, we need to look into is the feedback. Feedback is a very important aspect when it comes to open and distance learning system. As we have already talked about, we have already discussed that unlike the traditional mode of education system, in open and distance learning system, the learners are not in a face-to-face contact with the counselors or the tutors on a regular basis maybe. Of course, during weekends, they might be in touch through counseling classes. But other than that, they are not in a regular face-to-face mode with the respective teachers or the counselors or the tutors. So what can be done for that? So they are being given certain support services. And these support services, in conjunction with the study materials that are already provided to the learners, give an impetus for the learners to pursue the respective programs. But the thing doesn't end over there. It's not that they'll be taking admission in a specific program and they'll go ahead with that. We also need to take the respective feedback from that. The feedback mechanism needs to be there. For instance, are the learners being able to understand the study materials that are being provided to them? Are they facing any kind of problem while attending the different counseling classes? And what are the expectations from the university or maybe from the study center where they have enrolled for the respective programs? Are they facing any kind of problem? So such kind of information the distance education institute or the open universities needs to take into consideration. Okay, so feedback can be provided on different issues, on the course structure, maybe on the delivery mechanism, maybe on administrative and education facility, on the learner support services, and so on and so forth. Because why we are focusing so much on feedback? We can just ask the learners to take admission in a particular program. They'll they'll go through the study materials, they'll attend the counseling sessions, and they'll appear for examination, and that's that. Feedback is important because through feedback, the authorities will be able to gauge the problems that are being faced by the learners, and accordingly necessary solution can be come up. And this indirectly it results in a free flow of communication between the instructors and the learners, resulting in effective communication. Now, let us try to understand different components of LSS or learner support services. Now, basically, learner support services, it encompasses a range of activities which complement the mass-produced learning materials which make up the most well-known element in open and distance learning system as self-learning materials. And learner support services are basically made up of tutoring classes, and that can be either face-to-face mode, or it can be through correspondence mode, or it can be through telephone, or it can be through any other online platform. Okay, so it can such support services can be through such different mediums. Now, we have been talking about providing learner support services. We have been talking about, having a well-defined set of support services to provide to the learners. But in order to formulate an effective learner support services, there are certain questions that we need to take into consideration. And the answers to those questions should be looked into. Okay, should be searched in order to formulate a very long-term plan to effectively provide support services. First question is, who are our learners? Of course, we should identify who will be our learners, because our learners are spread across the length and breadth of the country. Okay, some belongs to rural areas, some belong to the semi-urban areas, some belong to the urban areas, some are very much, they're very much conversant in their own regional language, some are very comfortable in English language. So everything needs to be taken into consideration while identifying the learners, who our learners are. Because learners occupy the central position in any distance education system. And in order to make the learner support services appropriate and very effective, we need to identify the background. And while identifying the background, it is very much necessary to take into account the age factor, the gender, their educational background, the language, and their accessibility to information and other communication tools, etc. So these factors needs to be taken into consideration while we are identifying the learners. This is the first important aspect we need to look into. Second is, what are the needs, or what are the needs of the learners? Then only accordingly we can formulate the support services. Suppose one learner belongs to a very rural, interior village area, okay, and we are providing with a ton of, very sophisticated information communication technology tools. Maybe we are trying to interact with him, or maybe we are trying to focus on artificial intelligence, on cloud computing, okay, on the different other technology which are very much used in the field of education. So such technologies or such tools might not make any sense to a learner belonging to a very remote area in comparison with someone who is very much well versed or who is very much accustomed to such kind of technology and tools. That's why we need to identify the needs. Then only we can, lay the different support services in front of the learner. That is why the second important criteria is that we should identify the needs of the learners. The needs should be taken into consideration while providing a full-fledged learner support services. Okay, and we have a wide variety of support services, and it would not be wise to provide all the services even if it is not useful without knowing the educational needs of the learners. Because if we don't know what the learner exactly needs, and if we just provide a whole lot of services without understanding their needs, then definitely those services won't be fruitful in the long term. That's why we need to be very much careful about those things. Then there are also different ways to meet the needs of the learners. So definitely first we identified who our learners will be. Secondly, we need to identify the needs of the learners. Okay. So there are different ways also to meet the needs of the learners. There are a range of services that are provided through the different activities. Okay, once you've identified the needs, we'll try to provide the different services. And these different services includes, like, as we have already discussed about, the different counseling sessions. And those counseling sessions can be where a lot of counselings provide before the learner takes admission into the program, during the course of the program, and also after the completion of the program. Okay, we have the pre-admission counseling, the post-admission counseling. There are providing tutoring facility, not only collectively but also at the individual level and also in groups. Then there is also the peer group support services. Then we have the feedback concerning the assessment and progress. Then there is a language support. And we also have the career guidance. We have the administrative problem solving. So these are the different range of services which can be provided to the learners while identifying their needs. Another important aspect we need to look into while trying to formulate a definite learner support system is the cost and management of the learner support service. Cost and management is a very important aspect, okay, of any support services. Why it is very important? Because it is it is very easy to provide the services to the learners, but it is rather very difficult, to maintain and manage them in the long term. Because, providing study materials or maintaining the, online resources or online platforms, or maybe the other, learning management system. So we need to make use of a combination of both traditional as well as, technology platforms or technological tools, combined together while providing the support services. And while maintaining these support services, there is a cost factor involved. So everything needs to be looked into. Okay. Now, basically, there are two principal areas which are specific to the management of learner support services. And the first is the management of structures, which are actually developed from the institution's headquarters, and that involves the center periphery relations and the management of part-time of campus tutors and counselors. And then we also have the cost and management of learner support services has to be engaged with at least a few key issues, which are like, for instance, the distribution and remoteness of the staff and services, the contribution to the reduction of student attrition. This is a very important aspect which needs to be looked into as far as open distance learning is concerned, the student attrition. Then, of course, provision of basic amenities. Usually, when we talk about basic amenities, as far as open and distance learning system is concerned, we usually talk about making use of restroom, providing washroom, or provision of potable drinking water facility. These are the basic amenities. And though these facilities or these amenities are not considered, taken into consideration under support service, under learner support services, but nevertheless, these facilities can actually build bridges of understanding between the learners and the institute. Now, the learners under distance education, they needs a lot of clarification as far as the education program is concerned. They often they're very confused regarding how to follow the particular program structure, when to provide or when to submit the home assignments at the respective study centers, when the examination will be held, how are they going to appear for the examination, and other such administrative aspects they need to look into. So sometimes a lot of clarifications come to the fore. So what happens is that the administrative unit of the distance education institute or the open university, it must be designed in such a way that it can actually clarify the queries of the learners very easily and efficiently. And the people who are in charge of such queries, they must be very much well versed with the working of the entire administrative setup. They also must be very much well versed with different education programs that are being offered by the open university or the institute. They must be aware of the different modalities of providing such kind of education programs to the learners. And the head of the institution, who is in charge of the respective institute or the open university, he or she must ensure very good administrative support to the learners. So a very good responsive administration is also very much necessary while providing a proper set of learner support services. Then, of course, we need to have competent and dedicated faculty. The less we stress upon it, the better, because we need good tutors, we need good counselors, we need a dedicated set of teachers in place who can actually provide the necessary clarification on any education issue, on any academic matters that might be of use to the learners. Then library facilities, of course, they're very much important. Library and information technology based library tools have a very important place in the field of open and distance learning. and a well-equipped library with the latest technology not only helps the learners in the academic line, but it also provides them with the necessary motivation to aim higher for their respective studies. Then we need to have functional study centers. Simply having a study center is not the answer to providing the requisite support services. When one applies for a study center, one needs to make sure that the study center is functional. Okay, it's not that only a specific classroom is there. There are 2-3 chairs are there. That is that. It needs to have a proper blackboard. Maybe it needs to have a whiteboard also in place. It needs to have a proper projector in place. There should be well-lit room. The study center should have maybe library facilities should be there. Laboratory facilities also should be there. So there should be a set of very necessary, amenities that are being provided to the learners. In fact, it should be functional. Okay, that's what it is being said. Usually, when we talk about the tools of learner support service, they are the study materials. Okay, tools are basically the medium through which we try to disseminate the support services. Okay, for instance, we make up audio-visual aids. Okay, audio-visual aids are also a very important tool of learner support services. So, what does audio-visual aids do? Specifically, we try to record the different lectures within the confines of the studio. Then we try to review, after recording those lectures or those audio-visual programs, we copy them into a CD, okay, and then we provide that CD or the disc to the learners, and they can view those CDs, or they can view those lectures or those programs at any time at their own discretion. So this is one kind of tool, okay, of learner support services. Then of course we have the interactive television radio broadcasting, which is another important tool of learner support services. Okay, we have mobile based learning services like SMS services are provided, okay, to the learners. So once a learner enrolls, it's not only, I think almost every distance education institution or every open university across the world, they have this mobile based learning services. It's very handy because these days, of course, we almost 95-96% of the learners have accessibility to Android mobiles, and Android mobiles provide a wide variety of a huge plethora of support services. They can log in into any website, or they can log in into any specific e-resources, and they can make use of those resources to the best of their ability. Then we also have the different online services, which is another important tool of learner support services. And when we talk about online services, there is a need for interactivity in the learning process, which actually led to the development of computer-based learning materials. And when we combine the different media technologies like the internet and other new media technologies, it creates a new virtual world. Okay, and that in that virtual space, it gives an opportunity for the learners, for the tutors, for the counselors to engage in conversation, to engage in real-time discussion, real-time deliberation on different issues. That can be education issues, academic related matters, maybe other administrative related issues as well. Okay. Why we are trying to focus so much on distance or on learner support services in the field of open and distance learning system? This has become a very huge area. A lot of emphasis is given on providing the best of the best support services. Then, when we talk about the need and implications, it's huge. Now, of course, so far we have tried to understand what learner support services is all about. We have tried to understand different components of learner support services. We have tried to understand what aspects we need to look into while formulating a definite learner support service plan in place. The thing that comes to our mind round is that why there is a huge impetus, why a lot of emphasis is given on learner support services. In short, we can say that the different learner support services, three important aspects we can underline over here. We can emphasize over here. The first important aspect we can say is that learner support services should enable the learners to effectively utilize the learning packages that are being provided by the institution and also facilitate the process of study. The second important aspect is that these support services, it should enable the learners to make their choices and decisions by providing them proper guidance and counseling, and also help them through the different academic, the different administrative and other information related support. And the last important aspect is that this learner support services, it should provide opportunities for human interaction in order to reduce the learner's sense of isolation, which are actually caused mainly by deficient content. So with this, we have come towards the end of this module on learner support services. We have tried to analyze the basic concept of what learner support service is all about, of having a basic framework in place for planning and managing the different learner support services, and the different components of what constitutes a learner support services. Thank you so much.